Hands over heart. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Before we start, I'd like to address the elephant in the room. Me and Steve did not plan this. Okay.
Anybody else out there? Yeah, there we go.
All right, let's see. Agenda review. Do I have a motion to?
Don't need one.
Oh, okay. And next, special presentations, correspondence, superintendent, staff comment.
Yeah, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for coming tonight. One of the things that I'd like to do at the start of each meeting is just go through some of the great things that have happened in our school district since the last time we met. These things that I'm going to present were mostly between our last board meeting and the end of the school year because we just started up, or the end of the calendar year because we just started up. I want to acknowledge when we were meeting last time, the Ron Nunn Kindness and Caring Club were caroling out with their neighbors in Somerset. And so I really want to acknowledge them and thank them for all of their hard work in building community out there. Mrs. Breitenbucher out at Edna Hill led a middle school winter concert with the Edna Hill Bobcats. So great job to everybody there. I really want to thank a special group in our community that many of you may not know about, but it's Brentwood Bikes and Brews, and they have very quietly behind the scenes been supporting our students for the last several years. They typically reach out after having a fundraiser, and they reach out to us in November and ask us to identify some students who could use bicycles within our district. And really, they provide dozens each year. And so these are just some of the students who they gifted those bikes and helmets to. So we really appreciate those community members and what they did. I saw Hillary here earlier out there. She was at the Brentwood Elementary English Learner Advisory Committee meeting, working with those parents and supporting them about the assessment that their students take. And then also want to acknowledge out at Adams, Mrs. Brainerd's and Ms. Penso's EL classes. They held an international banquet. And so students got to share their family favorites with their classmates. So a fun event. And then student leadership at Edna Hill, and a special thank you to Mrs. Bernamonte for helping her leadership students host the Candyland social that took place out there for all the kids. Great opportunity. And then this is Mrs. Aruta's class out at Mary Casey Black. These kindergartners, they took trips around the world and went to Israel where they got to learn about Hanukkah. So neat opportunity for them. And then I want to say a special thank you because I've been involved for many years with the Brentwood Regional Community Chest. And the truth is without the Brentwood School District, this event probably wouldn't take place anymore. So the majority of the food and the toys are donated to our district and go to over 400 families within our community. And so these are just some of the students who worked hard to organize and get donations, and you can see those coming there. This is the Friday night sorting. Thanks to all of our friends and family out at Brentwood Elementary for hosting this for us. And then this is the distribution that took place on that Saturday morning. So really a great community event where community is supporting its own. So thank you so much to any of you that helped with that. So Harvest Grove, trying to find fun activities that bring families and students together from the virtual academy. And so this was Mrs. McNamara, Mrs. Lopez leading gingerbread houses. So thank you to them for putting that on. And this are some first graders in Mrs. Tucker's class at Marsh Creek Elementary that learned about Yalda, which is an Iranian celebration of the longest night of the year. So we love when families come in and share about their own traditions with their family. I love these two pictures. This is Grinch Day at Mary Casey Black. And so very good job, students, and keeping those faces on there. Except for, wait, I do want to point out the one kid behind the two that's in there. So great job. Also, another great community organization that does a lot behind the scenes for us each and every year is the Mothers of Brentwood. happily known as the Brentwood Mob, and they come out and they adopt families each year at our sites, in addition to other things that they do, and really make a big difference. So thank you to them for all of their support. Also want to thank the Brentwood Rotary, who came out this year and delivered gift cards to all of our third grade teachers. So one of the things that's transitioning there is we used to have a traditional dictionary program that went to third grade teachers. They're transitioning that to something a little bit different, but still supporting the third grade teachers. And so I really want to appreciate them for doing that. And then finally, I want to acknowledge our wonderful Bristol choir that performed the national anthem at the Golden State Warriors game on December 23rd. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they won as a result of that. So 126 to 106. And for those of you who've been watching Warriors game, that's a good score for them. So, and that is the end of my report.
All right, thank you. Next, we have the BUSD Equity Committee recognition.
Yeah.
Hello? How about now?
The little gray button, there's a little gray button you will press.
I do now. Thank you.
Yes.
I didn't push the green button all the way in.
Oh, gosh. Here.
I will read them off. Tweed, would you help us hand them out?
Yes. Fantastic.
Want to alternate?
Sure.
All right. It's like graduation.
Okay.
Yolanda Alvarez.
Mr. Calabrese, would you mind giving just a little?
Maybe
I was going to do that,
Yeah,
but
thanks. Told you it's like graduation.
but people don't know if they're
It's been
graduating.
7 years since I did a promotion ceremony.
Yeah. All right.
We're honoring tonight our DEIB committee and all their hard work that they've done since we started this back in the spring, and as part of our equity audit. And so we spent Saturdays together working on this. We spent several evenings in town halls, and so we want to honor that group tonight and give them a certificate of appreciation. So first off, would you give them all a hand?
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Yolanda Alvarez.
Michael Bowen.
Lisa Bustillos.
Nick Casey.
Gabby Castro.
Elena Cuevas.
Lori Emery.
Misty Finlandson.
Rosabella Fox.
Aisha Gatewood.
Elizabeth Giatti.
Stephen Glover.
Lauren Griggs.
Philip Halley.
Hin Lalami.
Elena Levin.
Concha Martinez.
Lenore Medina.
Christina Moman.
Samantha O'Leary. Patnisha Pearson.
Hillary Petrap.
Gary Ann Schmidt.
Crystal Shaw.
Liza Trujillo Frazier.
Emily Richards.
Jasmine Rocket.
Anitra Simpson.
Carolina Villaseca.
Lisa Waldron.
Tiffany Ward.
Danielle Wilkinson.
Sandra Zaragoza.
Kirsten Joe, Chris Calabrese, and Dr. Dana Eaton. Dr. Tweedale Jensen.
Yes, yay.
I'd like to say a big thank you to the Canizales group also, and for their contribution to our whole process in the equity audit. So thank you all very much.
We'd like to take a picture over here. So if you could bring your certificate over here, and then Nicole's going to take a picture.
And we also have one for Dr. Dow Jensen.
Yes.
He announced it. Yeah.
Missed that one.
Go take a
All right, you guys all can come over, we'll get a quick picture.
Over there?
Yours.
That's okay. Somewhere. All right.
Kristen has it.
Okay.
A row sitting down and a row standing behind it. So we can do a row sitting and a row standing. Okay.
Like one? Give off some bad breath there. You're that far away, I would never. Good call.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Not much. Thank you.
Yeah. Nice. Catch anything? Sweet.
All right.
Where'd you go? Okay. Nice.
And next, do we have any board member comments, committee reports?
Not at this time.
At this time, all right.
Move that we open public comment.
Second.
All right, have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. At this time, the public is permitted to address the school board. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person. While we encourage your comments, unfortunately, state law prevents us from discussing items that are not on our meeting agenda. Public comments can be made at this time or during the appropriate agenda item. We do take them very seriously, and if appropriate, staff will follow up. Public comments can also be submitted via email to Nicole Clevin. Let's see, and that's it. And okay, no written public comments. Okay, and the first person is Valerie Colley.
Hello, my name is Valerie Colley and I teach 5th grade at Pioneer. I am here tonight to talk about co-ed instruction of family life. I first want to make it clear that I am not questioning the actual curriculum. As with every other subject I teach, I will teach the standards. I intend to use inclusive language and include positive representations of people of all identities. I am only here to express my concern about teaching the boys and girls together. The conversations students have are made easier when they feel comfortable knowing that their peers are going through similar experiences. The ability to openly divulge shared worries, fears, and experiences give opportunities for in-depth conversations on sensitive topics that otherwise might not happen during co-ed instruction. Boys and girls should receive the same information. They should just receive it separately. I have not found research that proves puberty instruction should be co-ed. Even the author and publisher of the curriculum the district adopted cannot cite any research-based evidence. Wendy L. Sellers states, "Given the lack of research on this question, I can base my recommendation only on my experiences in teaching sex education to students across the grades." If we are only going by experience, well, in my experience, students are more likely to have open conversations when they are with their peers. According to page 261 of the Health Education Framework for California Public Schools, it is not required to teach both sexes together. The federal government's Title IX allows for single-sex education for classes in elementary schools which deal exclusively with human sexuality. If both the state and federal governments do not require co-ed human sexuality instruction, I question why BUSD has decided to teach both sexes together. I am not alone in my belief. There are a number of teachers who also feel the same way. Michael Bowen very kindly offered to meet with us so we could discuss the district's requirement. On January 10th, the 4th and 5th grade teachers at Pioneer, along with about 12 other teachers, met with Michael Bowen and Tamara Dio. 5th grade teachers at another site emailed their concerns over co-ed instruction. After very valuable and productive discussions, the idea of surveying the 4th and 5th grade teachers throughout the district was put forth. At that meeting, Tamara Dio stated that she thought the committee would not have a problem creating such a survey. On January 12th, we were informed that the committee decided to table the discussion of a survey until the committee could meet with their site teams to go over master copies of the curriculum some more. Then after that, they will decide their next steps. Well, today we were provided with the committee's talking points, which state puberty education should be taught in co-ed environment. Notice they use the word should. Even in the committee's own talking points, they could not state that it must be taught in co-ed environment. That is because nowhere is it written that co-ed puberty instruction is required. It's simple. If something is not required, then we should not be required to follow it. I just hope you do the right thing for our children and ask the district to change this requirement. Thank you.
All right, next public comment is Phil Rodriguez.
Hello, I'm Phil Rodriguez, and I am just a very small part of a much bigger group of people called the Turkey Trot Committee Run for Schools. And start of a new year, I just wanted to say thank you to the Brentwood Union School District for its support. Like the community chest, it would be hard to do this race without you folks. Recent numbers. Over the last 10 years, we have raised almost $482,000 for schools. Thank you. And that wouldn't be possible with a lot of you folks in here. This year, middle schools will receive $6,583 per middle school. Elementary schools will receive $2,468. And Harvest Grove, which is our online school, will receive $500. I really would like to thank Pioneer Elementary for the use of their gymnasium. For the packet pickup, and just in general for all the numerous ways that people in this district and some of you out here on this side as well really support our run. Things that are bought: volleyballs, track equipment, volleyball jerseys, softball, volleyball nets, fast pitch training machines, frisbees, disc golf, one of my favorites, speakers for amplifying their voices, trees for providing shade, climbing gyms or climbing walls, Gaga Go pits, I got to say that one every year, and regular golf training, which is great, in many, many more ways. So I just wanted to put it out there and thank all of the community, and you folks included, and everyone here for your support. So thank you very much.
Next person is Katie Tognalini.
There you go. Yep. Sorry. My name is Katie Tognalini, and I also teach 5th grade at Pioneer Elementary. I've been a teacher for 25 years and in Brentwood Union for 21 years. I'm here to talk to you tonight about my concerns and feelings regarding teaching family life in a co-ed classroom. I can guarantee you that I'm not the only teacher who has these feelings. For Brentwood Union to move in this direction, I feel as though it does a disservice to our students. I pride myself on building a safe and comfortable family life community in my classroom. Having co-ed instruction creates an uneasy and uncomfortable atmosphere for both boys and girls. Questions will not be asked, embarrassment and giggles will ensue. In my 21 years of teaching family life to girls, I can tell you the only thing that girls want to talk about is their menstrual cycle. They have a lot of questions to which I gladly and openly will answer. During family life, my classroom is a safe and secure space where female students feel comfortable enough to discuss their bodies and things that are happening to them. They actually don't end up using question cards because they're comfortable enough to ask questions. I don't want to see this special bond broken. Last Wednesday, teachers from Pioneer, Brentwood, and Ron Nunn met with Michael and Tamara to discuss co-ed instruction. We suggested a survey would be an appropriate step to determine how teachers feel about the district's decision to teach this material in a co-ed classroom. Tamara and Michael both said it should not be an issue to do a survey to all 4th and 5th grade teachers. It has been a week and a decision about sending out a survey has yet to be reached. We're not asking to not teach the curriculum. We're asking for an anonymous survey to be sent out. I want to remind you that teaching co-ed is not mandated by the state of California. In fact, there are a plethora of school districts in California who don't teach family life at all in elementary because it is not required per Ed Code 51934. A recommendation, it's not a law, it's not a mandate. It is what it says it is. It's a recommendation. I'm not here to debate curriculum. I'm not here to discuss and question why boys and girls in 5th grade need to know the 7 ways a pregnancy can occur, which according to the BUSD pacing guide, the new one created by the committee, is presented to students at teacher discretion. If the curriculum is left to teacher discretion because we do know our students so well, then why can't we use teacher discretion to separate boys and girls? There are quite a few optional and teacher discretion activities in our new curriculum, and I truly appreciate that, but so should the choice of whether to have co-ed instruction or not. The reason I'm here tonight and why I'm speaking is to urge the board and district to reconsider not having co-ed instruction for family life. Our 8, 9, 10, and 11-year-old students are not developmentally ready. They deserve to be taught in an environment where they feel comfortable, safe, and secure. Thank you for listening.
All right, next is Clay Souter.
Good evening. My name is Clay Souter, and I have 3 students currently enrolled in BUSD. My daughters are in grades 2 and 4 at Pioneer, and my son is in 6th grade at Bristow. Additionally, my wife is a 1st grade teacher at Pioneer in her 19th year of teaching, all with BUSD. I'm speaking today about the adoption of a new family life curriculum that is proposed to be taught in March and will directly affect my children. As a parent trying to navigate our changing world, in order to ensure my children are aware of and raised with a baseline belief system that represents our family values, as well as the ability to effectively empathize with the beliefs of others, while agreeing with them or not, I feel it's imperative that parents, teachers, and the district all work together to engage with each other and make decisions about fundamental changes to learning material. I don't feel that has occurred in this case. I'd like to suggest that you reconsider your planned implementation in order to conduct a transparent, collaborative, and inclusive review of the material and suggested teaching strategies with a greater representation of community and district stakeholders. In my opinion, you'd be better served to have the hard conversations up front and respectful of all opinions prior to rolling this out as planned. Frankly, by only providing accommodation via opt-out to families that may not share the same beliefs or agree with the developmental appropriateness or maturity level of the material that is being proposed, it feels forced and exclusionary. On the flip side, I recognize and respect that there are some families who may embrace this approach, and there may not be an easy solution. But I would rather be part of trying to find an approach more suitable to accommodate and include all families instead of being presented with a take it or leave it proposition. I've known some district leaders for many years, and I've generally found them to be decent people who care about the work they do and try to give their best, even in challenging times and through difficult circumstances. I know even more teachers who I consider my friends or friendly acquaintances, and it bothers me to see them struggle with what they're being asked to present and how they're being asked to deliver it. I think greater outreach and discussions that include teachers, parents, and the district would be an appropriate way to build consensus that ultimately provides for a more inclusive and accommodating rollout for all students. At the end of the day, we're talking about children. In my case, my children. who will sit with classmates and learn things about themselves and their ongoing development that will leave lasting impressions. Who among us doesn't remember sitting through the awkwardness of sex ed at school? I believe we owe it to the children to do more of the hard work up front. Maybe not to get it right, but to get it better. Thank you for your time and attention.
Next, we have Holly Bishop.
Let the record state that I have emailed all 5 board members for months to talk about the new sex ed, and only 1 board member took the time to talk with me. And Scott Dudek, I thank you for your time. To the other 4 members, it seems like you need a reminder that you are to represent and work for the people, which you failed to do so. On April 12, 2023, at 1 hour and 46 minutes into BUSD meeting, you approved the new sex ed curriculum. It was on record that only 1 board member, Emil Geddes, was the only individual to review the material and no other public review had happened. It was on record that the teachers group called the Teachers Voice recommended this material. It is a fact that the people who create alliances and groups tend to be the minority with special interest in the matter and not the majority. This group does not represent the teachers of this district adequately. When I reviewed the material, to say I was floored would be an understatement. At first, the book looks fine. It's your normal sex ed. And I even had to ask the person I met with where the gender information was, and it was in the back of the book. In 4th grade, it speaks about 7 genders and teaching kids that a doctor who assigned a gender by an outside physical appearance could be wrong. This is indoctrination of our children. To the board, I am requesting that you ask for the following future agenda items: that gender information for sex ed be removed, as the law states sex ed does not have to be taught to students until 7th grade and once in high school. So honestly, we don't even have to teach this at all, but I understand the need to teach sex ed. Please remove gender. If you do not remove this teaching, I ask for an agenda item to move the date of the teaching from the 1st week of March to the 2nd week of March, the week before break. This is because this is all the kids are going to be talking about for all of March. Change it before break. There will be some downtime that isn't a hot topic for the kids, and they'll return and only talk about what they did on break. In addition, if you continue to pursue this gender teaching, I will hold my son home for the entire week, unexcused in protest. The district will not get paid. It's smarter to do 1 week than 2 financially, since I know hundreds planning on doing the same. To the board, this is a moral issue. I'm asking you to do what's right for our children. Don't let other members of the board try to influence you. You have a heart and you know what's right. Lastly, I want to thank the teachers that came to me. I didn't know the teachers who reached out to me, but they knew they had that I had a voice in the community. I will never say who you are. You have a safe place with me. But I would like to say that we have a problem when an individual in the community can get the information about the new sex ed better than our district. Parents are mad because they felt like you hid this from them, just like you did with Pride training last June. And I don't care what you say about what the attorneys have advised you. You have a moral obligation to do what's right. And there's nothing against the law about informing parents. And to the people of this community, thank you for coming here and sharing your concerns as well. Thank you.
Next, we have Regina Garrett.
All right. Hello, my name is Regina Garrett. I also feel strongly that these children are too young to be educated on this subject in 4th grade. This is not your right to have this discussion in a school setting. This is a parent's right, for which we should choose how and when we will have this discussion with our children. This is wrong for you to force us to expose our children to such a sensitive topic at such a young age. I'm one of the parents out of many who will be pulling my child out of school during this week if it's going to be forced as a curriculum. I also want to point out that when I have informed parents about what is to be taught this year, they're shocked and in disbelief because they have no idea that this is in the works. You have intentionally kept this from parents, and this is morally wrong. We get a letter at the beginning of the school year telling us how exciting 4th grade is going to be, finally getting science in their curriculum. Nowhere in that letter stated that our kids will be learning about transgender and transitioning. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Joshua Pfaff.
Hi, my name is Joshua. I'm a parent of 3 boys at Brentwood Elementary. I wish I could be as formal and astute as all my predecessors. But first of all, I just want to thank everyone in this room. I think this is a perfect example that all the parents here, how involved we are with our children's lives and how little control we can have of it in certain aspects. All of you people at this table, you are all being paid by taxes being collected by all of the people in this room, and you are to represent the request that we have as a majority, not a minority. With that being said, I agree with the 2 previous speakers regarding the gender identification that we have going on with this country, at this school district specifically. I have my 11-year-old 5th grader, honor student, GATE student, member of every organization within the school, scared to go to school because he believes that some of this information that's going to be taught in this curriculum is not making him comfortable. At what point does that not become bullying? Kids are not supposed to be scared of bullies. Bullies are supposed to be the other kids in school that they're scared of. My kid should not be scared of going to school in the school district and the curriculum that he is being taught. Thank you.
Next, we have Lisa Disbro.
Is the timer over here? Great. Hi, I'm Lisa Disbro. I'm a Contra Costa public school teacher. I gave up my career over this issue and the other indoctrination issues. It broke my heart. Every year I was able to take my classroom of kindergarten students and build readers, writers, kids who loved learning, kids who got along, parents who loved bringing their kids to class, projects, doing all kinds of fun, engaging things, and being ready for 1st grade as readers, writers. That's pretty tragic. I've given up a career because I couldn't be deceitful, because I was expected to talk in ways and read books about gender identity. Isn't telling the truth important? I was raised that it is. When a child is conceived, their sexual identity is determined not by the embryo. I believe God determines that. Others believe a process determines that. Nonetheless, no one has to guess about a sexual identity. You're either male or female. And sadly, it has become a huge it's become a huge violation to say there are only 2 sexes, but there are. I want to let you know that, and I hope you have already done your homework, that you know that the state of California is in a revolution. It's a parent revolution. It's a teacher revolution. I'm one of many teachers who've left their career. I'm one of many, you, the superintendent, in EdSource, there was just recent articles about all of the superintendents leaving, being displaced, being fired over these issues. I want to tell you that we have organized and have in process a petition to put these issues on the ballot. ProtectKidsCA.com. I'm an advocate for that. And I would like to let everyone know that our voices as parents, as community, as staff, these are our children. They don't belong to you. You actually are civil servants and you are obligated. And if you look at the California Ed Code, there are numerous ed codes that hold you responsible for protecting the children.
Next, we have Ashley Reese and Jason Fletcher.
Members of the board, Superintendent Eaton, first off, thank you for having us. Thank you for what you do in the district. We have 2 boys in the district. One is in fourth grade, and one is in 6th grade. Recently, it's come to our attention that the family life curriculum that's going to be taught has some things that would be very concerning, especially because we're trying to raise our kids in a Christian household. And so we want to just emphasize to you that we're very concerned on this curriculum, and that as parents, it would be really nice to be able to see what's going to be presented before they see it. And Ashley would like to say a few things.
Just basically, like you said, we're actually divorced, but we believe in this so strongly. We come together as a unit again, as a household, a Christian household, to talk about it. We have a 4th grader, a 6th grader. They're on IEPs. They're severely dyslexic. The last thing that I think they need to know is about gender identity. My 6th grader is 11. All he wants when he gets home is V-Bucks, Roblox. He does not care if he knows, we do not care if he knows what oral and anal sex is. The curriculum is appalling. I can't believe that you guys put teachers in this position to teach them this stuff, boys and girls in the same room. It's heartbreaking. I grew up in Brentwood over 80 years. My family has been here. My last name's Rios. My dad, Ruben Rios, grew up here. I look at you guys. I know some of you know my family. I've graduated with some of your kids from high school. And I just really ask yourselves, do you really want your grandchildren to be learning this stuff? I did not learn this stuff when I was young. Basic family life is okay, but this is not basic family life. And also to remind you that you are the voices of our kids. You are the voices of us. So my question is why is this so important to push this through for little kids? It's over-sexualizing them. They don't need to know this stuff. It makes me feel sick to send our kids in and knowing that other people besides their parents are going to be talking to them about this stuff. And our kids will not be at school that whole week. We don't want to put them in that position. They're innocent little kids who need to go to school, learn to read, write, trust their teachers, trust who is in charge of them, trust the board, and that trust is taken away. There's tons of parents that feel the same way, but sadly, they don't have faith that you guys listen to us. We don't feel listened to at all. And that's sad. I love Brentwood. I loved growing up here, but I think the strong family unit is turning in the wrong direction. And we just are concerned parents that just wanted to come and just let that be known that we don't agree with this being taught to our children. It's not family life, it's sex ed.
Thank you.
Next is Dave Matlock.
First off, I want to express my appreciation that you even care what I have to say. Well, I hope you care anyway. No, I was just going to mention that the sex education and all that, there's obviously a lot of division around it. And I just wanted to say one thing, really. I think if we chose curriculum that was about biology and not ideology, then that division would go away. Biology is something we can all agree on. Ideology is obviously not. And I don't think that we should be teaching kids at such a young age things that overlap with so much politics and things such as that. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
All right, next we have Laura Matlock.
Good evening, and thank you guys for your time. I appreciate that we're able to come together and talk about something. My name is Laura Matlock, and I'm a professional behavior analyst. I've worked in school districts in 4 different states, and this is the first school district that now my kids are also attending. I have 2 kids, 4th and 5th grade at Guerin Elementary, and when I had an opportunity to review the curriculum, I am concerned that the majority of it, I mean, a lot of it is just the normal sex ed, but there's a lot of the indoctrination process. It comes across as propaganda in a lot of the ways it's phrased. For example, a 4th grader is told that they're a gender superhero if they dare to think outside the norm. Now, as a behavior analyst, that's concerning because the law of reinforcement with behaviors. The law of behavior states that if I reinforce a behavior through attention or other ways, that behavior will increase. So we tell a bunch of young, impressionable kids, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, that, hey, you don't feel special enough. Now, if you adopt this ideology, you can get extra attention and reinforcement of that. So we can expect to see that grow because that's just a law of behavior that does exist. And I work with a lot of families that I wish I could tell them that the laws of behavior don't exist the way they do. They do. They're laws. I don't make them up, but that's what I've done for 20 years professionally. So as I'm looking at this, and I'm expecting to now have to talk to my kids about oral and anal sex, which I never thought would be happening right at this moment, and to know that it is an optional curriculum is one that I would really like to come to the table to try to present a way for us to build some unity back in the community and find a way to represent everyone and the concerns that we have. And if it's mandatory, it's mandatory. If it's not, then why do we need to push it? Thank you very much for your time.
And next we have Melissa Vongtama.
Good evening, respected board members, Dr. Eaton. My name is Melissa Vongtama, and my husband and I are the parents of 2 children in this district and a third who will be entering the district this fall. We thank you for your service, having been elected by the community to provide leadership and citizen oversight of the school district. In our statement tonight, we are appealing to your duties of ensuring that the district is responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of the community. Tonight, we would like to address the Family Life Program materials for elementary schoolers as well as middle schoolers. In addition, the community celebration slideshows for the month of June. Based on the applicable governing California Education Code statutes on these matters, our understanding of the selection and adoption of these materials, and our personal review of the materials, here are our concerns. First of all, Code Section 51938 states that at the beginning of the school year, each school district has to notify the parent or guardian of each pupil about instruction in comprehensive sexual health education planned for the upcoming year. As parents, we did not receive any notification about the adoption of the new Family Life Program materials at the beginning of the school year. We heard through other parents that this was happening, and there has been widespread confusion, and as you can hear, just disappointment and anger throughout the community. In addition, Code Section 60002 states that each district board shall provide for the substantial teacher involvement in the selection of instructional materials and shall promote the involvement of parents and other members of the community in the selection of instructional materials. We believe that the district has not complied with the statute, as there has been little to no opportunities for teachers and parents to participate in the selection of the Family Life materials. Teachers are now just getting information on the new materials, which are drastically different than previous years, and have expressed that they feel unequipped and uncomfortable teaching them. Only some parents are aware of the new materials, and many have not had the opportunity to review it. Furthermore, there is disagreement about the implementation of the teaching, as has been addressed tonight, in terms of teaching the girls and the boys together. Many parents and teachers object to this arrangement. So, in the interest of transparency, cooperation, and our parents' fundamental rights to care for our children, we're asking that the implementation of the new Family Life curriculum and the June's community celebration materials be put on hold. Just pause, so that there's more time for administrators, teachers, parents, and the board to evaluate the following 3 things: potential compliance or non-compliance with Code Section 5193, that the instruction and the materials be age appropriate, that the information presented is factual, medically accurate, and objective. Specifically, our family is concerned about the materials that address gender, abortion, and sexual ethics. In addition, we want to make sure that there's compliance with other code sections, which I'll email to you. Thank you.
Next is Cindy Lee.
Good evening, parents and board members. My name is Cindy Lee. I have 2 kids who are in Bristow and Loma Vista schools in the district, and I'm here to talk about also not just the family life curriculum, but also the Canizales, I'm not pronouncing that right, but the study they have done that they have made available to me about the growth areas of our district. And one of the things they said that our district really lack district-wide DEIB vision. And also, we are underserving the ELL community, and we lack courageous conversation about race, identity, and differences among staff. So there's just an overall lack of unity and lack of, as you hear tonight, there's actually said that fear was one of the things that they thought was one of the growth areas we need to pay attention to. And the way the family life curriculum is implemented is just the example of all these weaknesses that's already existing in our district. And then when we push out this controversial curriculum, did we take into consideration all these growth areas that we need to pay attention to? Because I'm speaking for the minorities in our community who don't even speak English, and they speak Chinese or Thai or Laos or Spanish, and they don't even know that this is happening. So I just propose that if you are serious about the studies that we pay thousands of dollars for the Canizales group to do, then can you translate notification letters in different languages? Can you make translators available? Can you have a time where these parents can come and view the material and have somebody interpret this to them on what this will mean for them? Because isn't this the whole point of the Canizales group's study? So until they have had a chance to look at it, until they have been properly informed, I don't think it's fair to roll out this curriculum just the way we're doing it right now. And also, I just want to also say that I saw something about teaching this curriculum in a trauma-informed way in the 8th grade, 6th grade curriculum, because there's so much stuff in there about how sex happens. And statistics show that 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 20 boys under the age of 18 have been sexually assaulted or abused. Are our teachers prepared to do trauma counseling when trigger words are said and children are coming to the teachers now with their abuses? I know the curriculum is set up to prevent abuse, but honestly, it's not really well done that children will feel safe to come forward now to the teachers to talk about their traumas. Or is the district going to provide trauma counselors? Are we going to have psychologists on site and provide free counseling? I think these are the questions you haven't answered. So I'm just proposing you would think about it and put it on hold until you have answers for us.
Next is Sandy Growney.
Thank you. I'm speaking tonight as a concerned citizen, parent, and grandparent. Parents do not send their children to school to explore sexuality. Maturation is a biological process, and parents have the right and the obligation to guide their children through this process in accordance with their own customs, morals, traditions. Public schools should be focusing on education. And as some of this presentation you did tonight, you have so many more important things to cover. I'm just concerned about the resources that you are spending on this subject that's not even mandated. I could see if you were reaching grade level proficiency in the mandated subjects and you had money and time to burn, but you don't. And this is not mandatory. So the use of resources and time just boggles my mind. At the same time, children are children for such a short amount of time, and we are adults for so much longer. And if I dare say, all the adults in this room, we have figured out what sexually pleases us. We didn't need some teacher to tell us, try this, try that. It might feel good. That is so personal. And we are taking away the naivete and the curiosity and the innocence of young people. They will figure this out with the guidance of their parents. Biology is one thing. Sexual exploration is something else. And I don't think that we should be doing that in the public schools. Thank you.
And next we have Uma Steinhauer.
Good evening, board and the hardest working staff of BUSD. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Uma Steinhauer, and I come to you as a parent in the district and also as an employee. My husband, Will, unfortunately cannot join us tonight because he's at home sick, but I have his blessing to share a little bit of his story. And he's a more eloquent public speaker, so bear with me. Will is a product of teenage pregnancy. His mother was pregnant with him when she was 14 years old, in a circumstance that I would judge by our normal, modern standard as a sexual assault. She grew up in a very religious household when, sexual education was not a part of her public school education, nor it is within their own family. With that experience growing up, and knowing how that experience not only changed her life, it, disrupt everything. She stopped growing from that point on. She was a baby, raising a baby. She was not capable mentally or physically to handle any of those tasks herself. To us, it is vitally important that we equip our children with the knowledge, age-appropriate knowledge, what to call certain body parts by its correct name. We are to empower them so that, unfortunately, at some point, when they are left to their own device, and I am not there to be able to protect them, they are empowered and know to be able to say what is right, what is wrong, to know their own body, to be able to choose for themselves. Furthermore, I grew up with transgender children. I witnessed firsthand how they were ostracized and isolated. And I am so proud to be a part of a school district that choose to be inclusive in the face of all of this. Nothing is easy. I understand that, and I appreciate what you're doing to acknowledge that we're moving on with the time and we're trying to embrace all of our children and be a part of all of that to make sure we're there for them in the future. Thank you.
Are there any more public comment cards that we may not have gotten? Next is Jason Gamble.
Thank you for the time. It was come to my attention the new curriculum that was going to be taught to fourth graders and also sixth graders about gender and anal sex and oral sex. And I don't agree with that. I don't think you should be teaching our children that, especially at a young age. Let the parents do that teaching on their own. And then you guys need to just focus on all the basic stuff. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, if that's all for public comments. Can I have a motion to close?
Move that we close public comment.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
This is well, excuse me. Oh. In regards to the comments that were made, first off, could you explain the opt-out period? I've got a few other things, opt-out period.
Yeah, sure. So sex ed in family life, this is one of those where parents are allowed to opt out. So there's information that'll go home that'll tell parents how to request an opt-out if they wish to.
And what would that, is that they would go somewhere else, or how
Yeah, no, we're required to provide an alternative education for them at that point. If they.
And in regards to another comment, I would strongly like to request that the comments made here be taken back to the committee and make them aware of some of the concerns and stuff in regards to that. So maybe some of they weren't aware of the concerns or something along that line too. And are we going to send out a letter to the parents to be very specific as far as?
Yes, and we're required to do that. So we're required to inform the parents. We're required to have a parent night where we go through the curriculum and parents have the opportunity to look at it. Parents can come and look at the curriculum now as well, but we're required to have those sorts of pieces. And then we're also required to communicate out and let them know. In this case, with a new curriculum, right, you would also talk about the changes, right? I think that's something the board could request if they wanted to make sure that that was extremely clear.
And how about somebody made, I'm not supposed to comment, but the multiple languages, where do we stand on that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. We're required to send it out in languages where there's 15% of more of the population, but we've really worked hard over the last year to try to, Google Translate has given us the ability to do more of that. And so with more languages. And so I thought that was actually a really good suggestion. I put a note down for that as well.
And discretion is part of what the teachers, I'm not sure how to word it.
Yeah, I'm certainly not the expert on it, right?
No.
There's a teacher committee that's led by curriculum instruction that's working through that, right? And I don't want to step on their process,
No,
but I heard the piece of making sure that they hear the feedback that was there, and I know there's some ongoing discussion that's taking place still that's going on, so I'll make sure that. And then what was the question that you wanted me to follow up around discretion? Like, is there the ability for teacher discretion?
As far as getting as graphic in fourth and fifth grade as some of the parents have brought up. So if a child asks, they obviously have to address it, but
yeah, again, the specifics of it are different to each curriculum, right? Lots of the times, things that people see in curriculum are more about responding to a question that's asked as opposed to something that's proactively taught. And so how you could respond to that, though lots of times, as I remember as a fourth and fifth grade teacher, the answer is typically that's something you need to ask your parents about, right?
And that will be allowed, or?
Yes, that's part of the curriculum. Again, I don't want to get into the specifics
of and I'm crossing the line here as far as addressing some of the things. So and just to be clear, we can't address specific things. That's just the law. So it's not that we don't care or didn't sink in or whatever you want to call it, but it's just we can't. So I appreciate everybody coming in, and I appreciate the comments, and hopefully everybody else appreciated it and give it food for thought. So that's it for me. Scott signing off.
We could take a quick break. We have some cookies over here if anybody, unless there's any other board comments. And so
Sure. Let's take a
5-minute
break.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 8:04, 8:05.
Yeah, 8:04.
Okay.
Let's see, we have consent items 8.0 to 8.10.
I make a motion to approve consent items 8.0 through 8.10.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? All right, motion passes. And there were no hearings and appeals. And then 10.0, report out of closed session.
I make a motion that we,
She does have a report out of closed session.
Just a report.
oh, my bad, I'm jumping the gun.
A majority of the board in closed session voted 4-1 to approve a settlement agreement in the amount of $337,500. All right, and next, 10.1, expulsion of student.
I make a motion to approve the expulsion of student number 11-2023-10.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? All right, motion carries. All right,
Go ahead.
next item, 10.2, expulsion of student 12-2023-11.
I make a motion that we approve expulsion of student 12-2023-11.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? All right, motion passes.
I make a motion to approve the expulsion of student number 12-2023-12.
Second.
Okay.
Go Gursky.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections?
Yeah.
No objections, motion passes.
I move that we approve expulsion of student number 12-2023-13.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Motion carries. Next, item number 10.5, approval of resolution 2023-24.
All right, I'll make a motion if there's no questions. Do we have any, is there a report out or something? Okay, I make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-24.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Okay, motion carries. Next, 10.6, budget update.
Board, this is just a quick oral update tonight. This morning, myself, Diane, Chris, and members of our bargaining and association partners from across the district, including Lisa and Lauren, attended the governor's budget update in Sacramento. So there was really no new news than what we had previously shared before. The COLA had dropped from 3.94 to under 1, so it's at 0.73, and there's still a couple quarters left, so that could adjust up or down, depending. They were predicting today would adjust up a little bit. The other thing that we learned today that I heard for the first time that I hadn't seen was that our ELOP allotment could go down a little bit, and so we're gonna check that out. That's the money that we use for our after-school program for TK through 6th grade students. So we'll be looking at that. It's still part of the budget. Of course, this goes all the way through till they finally agree in June. So just wanted to give you that oral update, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to go today. It was nice to all hear the same information together.
All right, thank you. Next item, 10.7, board priority update.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm here to bring an update to our board priority goals for attendance. Last time we talked about this was 5 months ago, so I'm just here to quickly update you on where we're at. I know, 5 months. Doesn't it? So with our priority around attendance, really want to make sure we improve this district-wide, and the most important piece is to bring our kids to school and normalize coming to school every day and making sure that they feel that they belong and that they are learning. So really just emphasizing the importance of attendance. We've been doing this. Our wonderful principals behind me and vice principals and everybody are doing a great job of really showing the kids that why it's important to be there, and really increasing that sense of belonging and really making those relationships really important and building that sense of community. So I wanted to first show the chronic absentee data. So this is one that we have been working on. Chronic absentee, the data point is if a child is absent 10% of the time that they're supposed to be in school, by the time that they are enrolled. If they are absent, if they're absent 10% of the year or more, then they're considered chronic absentee. So our goal was to decrease that amount and down to less than 20%. So our overall chronic absenteeism last year was, or 21-22 was 25%, and it went down to 19%. So we did achieve our goal. So we declined that by 6.6%. And in most of our subgroups or demographics, we have declined by 6%. So I wanted to go through those a little bit. Foster youth, we declined dramatically by 25%, which is fantastic. So that one really decreased. Students with disabilities declines 6.9%, so that's also wonderful. Our African American group, we declined by 5.9%, it's also a great decrease there. And so we accomplished our goal, which our LCAP goal for the chronic absenteeism was to decrease that below 20%. So we did do that. Our goal for increasing attendance was to increase from 93% to 94%. So I'll have those numbers in a minute, so I'll make you wait for that. It's very exciting. So our differentiated assistants, this is the wonderful group that we have been assigned to because of being in one of these subgroups. We identified in 2 priority areas for 2 years or more. And so we're hoping that we have graduated from this fun group. So we're waiting for the final say from the county to say that we have been able to, have removed ourselves. Yeah, exited. Sorry, that's the right word. Thanks, Dana. So, but we think that we have been exited. So we will let you know for sure, but I want to misspeak there. But hopefully we have exited from differentiated assistance. So you will see the slide in upcoming presentations, but for now we have to keep it here. And then action steps that we're taking. So we talked about this last time. At the site level, there's a lot of communication to families and action plans that the schools are working on. And we're doing an advertising blitz. We have our wonderful nurse, Miss Jackie Oria, created a wonderful video that talks about when it's safe to come to school. And so that we send that out to all of our families so they know it's, it really is a safe place to be, and what to look for, what kind of a fever you can have and still be, when you can throw up and be at school, those kind of things, just keeping it really brass tacks there. And then also I wanted to show you some cute videos. These are just a couple of the things that our wonderful sites are doing. On the left there is Haley Young over at Edna Hill. The paper she's holding says all that and a bag of chips. So the children, when they've come, reaching their attendance goal, they get that, and then they get some chips. So it's really cute. And then that's Angela Mullen at Marsh Creek dressed in the banana. And she goes into the classrooms and sings in a banana costume when they achieve their attendance goal. So it's pretty adorable. So they're doing so many things to just try to encourage the children to get to school. And then how we're measuring our impact is just absolutely just data, making sure that we are keeping track of that. And then also that the impact that you feel when the children are there and they're feeling like they have that community and they feel that they belong. And then here is our numbers of our attendance numbers that we're trying to increase by 1%. So we have August to November last year, and then August to November this year. And you can see our district number there is, we've increased it by 1% so far at this point in the year. And you see each school site has also done that, increased either over 8% or close to it. So we really are
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on one of the things that we saw today at the presentation was because even though it's good for us to go up a percentage point, our historical numbers before COVID were a lot higher than this, right? We were at 97%. And so that has a huge impact on us educationally, right? When students aren't in school, they're incredibly hard to teach. And then it also has an impact on us financially, right? Is that really 1% in a school district our size is about $1 million that we don't get. So it is important for us to keep doing this work. It's important for us to acknowledge the positive momentum we make, but it's also important for us to acknowledge that we still haven't returned to the levels that we had pre-pandemic, and that's a challenge for us as we go forward. And what we saw today in the slides was that's a challenge across the state that they're seeing. It's a pattern in school districts across the state that they're seeing very common data to what we have.
Yeah, that's it. Do you have any questions?
No, but I do recall we were going to have like a friendly competition between the sites.
Ooh, we do. We have our trophies. And so every month we share the trophy. And that has gotten a little bit, yes, definitely competitive. So I do have one picture with Mr. Casey and Mrs. Croy are having a battle over that trophy. So I'll have to bring that picture next time. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. All right.
Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Kirsten.
President,
Mhm.
imperative that the rest of our staff hang out.
No.
I don't know if you guys heard that, but I believe the principals are free to go.
Yes.
Can you get out of jail free card tonight?
Just remember, Friday is my birthday.
We discussed salary after.
He would like a blue shirt for his birthday.
Blue check.
Can I get home?
Thanks, guys.
safe? All right, let's keep going.
All right, 10.8, mid-year LCAP update.
Good evening, Board of Education. So I am here to give you as it says, a mid-year update on where we're at with our LCAP. This is something that I have done once before. I think it was, if I'm right, I think it was 3 years ago. It was required that year by the state and is again required by the state and will be going forward. So, and that's what this slide says. It just says that we have to do this by February 28th. It's not an action item, but I do need to present. And I'll be sharing where we're at with our LCAP metrics and then where we're at with our actions and expenditures in the LCAP. I'm going to focus a little bit more of my presentation on the metrics because for the most part, the actions and expenditures show we're halfway through the year. So I'll just get started and share about the metrics. So you're going to see you're going to see our metrics. You're going to see some data, and then on the last slide, there's a link to all of the data and a deeper dive for the data. And I know you've had access to this for a few days now and looked at it. But I'm going to show you data, and it's either going to be that we don't yet have the data, that we're not on target with our data, we're making some progress, or we've already met that target. So those are the four kind of buckets you're going to see here with the metric data. So the first page of data here is around our proficiency on the SBAC, and then our percent of students with 3 or more D's and or F's. And you'll notice in this metrics data that the LCAP baseline year varies. It's dependent on whether it was the first year of our LCAP or we're just pulling data from last year. So it does vary in terms of the comparison years. In this case, we're looking at 2019, which was pre-COVID, to 2023. And you can see that both in math and language arts, we're not on target target currently. And I'll share a little bit more about that in a minute. In terms of our students with 3 or more D's and F's, we did reduce that by a percentage point. And so we're making some progress there, but we've not quite met our target of less than 10%. This is a little chart just to show you, so you can see our maths in red, language arts is in blue, and you can see that that for our total population in English language arts in 2019, we were 16 points above standard and negative 3.5 points below standard in math. And then we didn't give that assessment in 2020 and 2021. So the reason why I bring this up is because if you look at our SBAC scores, just a comparison of 1 year post-COVID, you will see that we made some pretty significant gains in math. We're sort of flat in language arts. We're still not back to where we were pre-COVID, but we're making some improvements. And so I wanted you to see that comparison as well. The next set of data looks at our English learner progress, our intervention data, our local measure of our FAST data, our English learner reclassification, behavior data, and then our special education rate. And you can see that we kind of have a mixed bag there. We've met our target for English learner progress with really actually some really good data. Our 18-19 rate of students who were making progress was 41%. And in 21-22, which is the most recent state data we have, it was 56.3%. And our target is 55%. So we'll have to probably increase that target and go up a little bit more, but good progress there. We don't quite have data for our intervention effect size. That'll be coming within about the next month. It's just the timeline of things. And we reduced our percentage of students at risk from 11% to 10% according to our FAST data. So we're making some progress there. We're reclassifying more students. So went from 4% to 5.6. And then we've got a significant increase in the amount of counselor contacts there. So I indicated that was a target met. By the way, just to make sure you know, in that far right column where it says data source, on the presentation, those links won't work, but I'll show you where they can be linked, and there's definitely more data behind all of this. Our district SPED rate went up a little bit from 22-23 to 23-24, so that's indicated as not on target currently. And then on the next slide, we have some metrics around implementing technology, software and apps, reducing chronic absenteeism. Those are all we're making progress in. And then the last one there is around school climate, showing that we went from 72% of our fifth graders feeling like they're connected to 76%. And our target was 75%, just to give us a target. Hopefully, I mean, ideally, we would want all students to feel connected, but that was our current target.
Quick question.
Yeah.
That data, I kind of aggregated it,
Which one, Stephanie?
like for the students that feel connected most of the time.
Yeah, that comes from an annual survey we do called the Healthy Kids Survey, and it's specifically administered in 2 grade levels, and we use the 5th grade data to kind of as a baseline and a point of reference.
But are we able to get like the breakdown of the demographic of students who said they don't feel connected, to see if there's some hotspots we should be aware of?
There's a lot of breakdown of that data. The report is somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 pages, but I don't remember off my head whether it breaks down that specific question. Happy to follow up with you. Then we have suspension data, some additional school attendance data, and some data around staff diversity. And you can see that suspension is an area of work for us. those targets and those points at the state level are pretty tough. They want really, really low suspension rates, but that is something that we're working on and currently not on target. Attendance, Kirsten just talked about that. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Are we able to break down the types of suspensions we're seeing? Like if there's trends, seeing if we could, you shaking your head, so we are, okay.
Yeah, that's something I know coming up. Kirsten and Justine will be doing a report on behavior, and maybe that's something we can include.
Yes.
Yeah. Down there on the staff diversity report, you can see we're making some progress. We have some groups where we've increased the discrepancies. So that discrepancies between our student percentages and our staff percentages in different ethnic and racial groups. Lastly, we have two pieces of metrics that we're collecting, but we don't have data for right now. Well, one's really our electives, and that's really just continuing our efforts around equitable and balanced offerings. Hard to kind of quantify, but we've definitely been doing some work in there. And then actually, we don't have the data in here, but you're going to see a little bit of the LCAP expenditures in the upcoming slides. So you can kind of, just to summarize on our metrics, it's kind of a range. We've got some areas we're making good progress in. We've got some areas where we've met the target, and we've got some areas where we need to do some additional work.
Just because it's a required presentation, one of the other things we wanted to make sure that you had was the expenditures in there as well and to date. So Michael put a chart in there that you could kind of review and see. And if they have any questions, that's something they can reach out to you about.
Yeah, I was just going to real quickly go over this.
I just had two quick, just because I've been looking at it.
Yeah.
Looks like we're 300,000 over budget on curriculum.
Yeah, there's a couple of, so when you look at these actions and expenditures, there's a couple that make sense. Like, let's take 1.4. We have two coordinators paid out of LCAP money. We're about halfway through the year, about half of it spent. Right. But there are a few things that are a little odd there. That's one of them. And that what happened there is that, and maybe I could have indicated this differently, we did spend the $200,000 of LCAP money, but we also spent some one-time money. Okay. And I think you would have seen in past packets that our FOSS adoption, our elementary science materials, cost us close to $1 million. And we're paying that over multiple years. Gotcha. So the difference is some of that and paid out of a different funding source.
And then the next line, we have $2 million left to spend on school sites?
Yeah, so that one also is a little confusing. You're right, because that is their whole allocation. I'm looking over at Diane a little bit because that one was a little confusing to me too. I don't think, to be honest with you, that we allocated that full amount. They had their other funding. Okay. And so that's just a portion of what's been spent.
I think one of the important things to remember too is the LCAP, because it's a 3-year document. Sometimes what's planned in the first year, we approach it differently as we go through. So we were trying to bring this back because it's required in the report to show what we originally stated. But there are variances like that we'll need to explain
out over the 3 years.
Yeah, or it was achieved in a different way going forward.
No, nothing related to new school is in here. And the last one I'll just point out is an odd one is the busing. Apparently we pay that towards the end of the year. So that's why nothing's been spent yet. So things like that are in here.
Okay. Great.
Can you clarify for me what the line item for, I saw coaches, what is that line item was at 1.3 or something?
So we had, is that my 3 minutes?
Time's up.
We had allocated for coaches, and through attrition, we did not backfill those positions. So my
Sports coaches or academic coaches? I don't know.
academic coaches
Okay.
in my department, and one of the coaches became a vice principal, and the other one took a position when someone retired in my department, and we just didn't backfill those. So we did not spend any of those.
One of the things that we've been with some of the budget challenges this year, we've been holding off on some things that we weren't sure about. So when that happened, we decided to put a pause on it to sort of wait and see how the budget developed.
Okay. And so when I see that it says not doing, do I assume that that money is going to be reallocated somewhere else because it's budgeted for that, or that we just hold on to it for a rainy day?
No, we're required to reallocate it and rebudget it in a different way, and so that'll be part of a process going forward. But right now, we're just sort of there is an aspect of saving right now and trying to hold on.
Yeah.
So how does with that in mind, how does the board stay informed of the things that we said we were not doing and where that reallocation ended up? How do we find that out?
Yeah, so this is a report that's based off what we agreed to 3 years ago. So each year when we've come back with the LCAP and the budget that's adopted in the year, that is up to date and accurate. But because of the requirement of this document, we're going backwards a little bit and showing you what it was originally. So it is a very confusing format to look at. The actual LCAP that we'll come forward with in this year, and what we've come forward with each time has been a plan on how we're going to spend that money going forward. And so that is accurate.
Right. I don't think, and I know it's late, and I'm sorry, board, but I don't think that's answering my question. So let me see if I can say it again. If we said that we were going to allocate $275,000 for coaches, and then I see that we're not doing it, where do I find where we reallocated the funds?
Yeah, we haven't reallocated that.
And then you're telling, so what I think I'm hearing from you is when we do the LCAP thing again, I will know where these funds will be reallocated.
That's correct.
Where they, okay. And will that be called out, or do I need to just keep a parking lot list of things I have questions on LCAP where things get reallocated and ask then?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, right? Because it's not like that 275 is a set aside that's somewhere that we're just saving. It'll roll back in if it's, because I'm assuming that's a function of the money that was set aside out of supplemental money. And so the supplemental money we're required to come forward with again and reallocate it. It can't go anywhere else in the budget. So it'll be contained in the budget that goes forward, if that makes sense. I don't know.
It does, but I just would love to know where it gets reallocated to. So say we decided not to do coaches, right? And we know it could be anything. We decided not to do an action.
Yeah.
I just want to find out where the paper trail is of like, what do we end up doing with those funds?
You will, because there'll be a spending plan. So say there's $1 million in supplemental funds, there'll be a spending plan from that. Of before, $275,000 was allocated for coaches going forward.
Okay.
I think that's all I got, other than to let you know in the very last slide, I'm sure you've seen this, there's the links to the actual metrics and then our LCAP. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next, 10.9, update on 24-25 strategic action planning and LCAP process.
Board, there's a calendar in your packet you've seen before, and we'll continue to bring it back as we go forward. A couple of just important things that'll come out after this meeting is we'll be getting a survey ready that'll go out to all staff and families. In addition, we'll be identifying members of the strategic action planning team that'll work on next year's goals and budget going forward and make recommendations with all of those members that are listed there, including board members that are interested in participating.
It's the same process.
How'd you know that's how I read?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right to left bag?
Awesome.
Okay, any other questions for 10.9? Okay, let's move on to 10.10, special education update.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm going to screen share. I'll get to it. Cast. This is boardroom main. Yep. All right. So here's my special ed review, and I'll go into slideshow. I'm excited to be here today. There were some tiny, tiny edits to the one you got in your packet. So the updated one is on mine, but again, they're really small edits. So excited to be here today to give you this update on our department and where we are. So this is kind of an agenda. We're going to talk about where we are now, our current data, and that's what you're looking at, the big spreadsheet, but I'm going to explain these data points. The programs we offer, staff overview and statistics related to staff. And then I'm going to talk about where we're going with basically goals and next steps related to all those 3 data points. So the biggest piece of data that we monitor and all districts really monitor is the percent of total students eligible. So that top number, and this data was taken as of October 12th, 2023. So it was right in the middle of fall break. So the last day of school for students was 9:30. So I'm basing it's really a 22-23 number because the year hasn't ended. It can't be a 23-24 because we still have months to make students eligible. Next year moving forward, I'm going to pull this data on the last day of school or like the 4 days after the last day. So it'll be a clear, accurate picture from like June 6th, June 10th of what the total eligibility is. But that data point hadn't been taken. So we took all this data as of October 12th. We are at 15.13% eligibility. That is a high eligibility. The state average is around 12. I did kind of poll some of my neighbors. We can look at, the SELPA does comprehensive reviews with other districts in the SELPA. So most districts are high right now. It's a result of COVID, and students basically having learning loss, and therefore we had a huge influx of referrals for assessment and students becoming found eligible. So some of our neighbors, Liberty's at 14.8, Oakley 15, Antioch's at 17. And then I have a mentor in my program because I'm a new director. He works in West Contra. It's a huge district, single district SELPA. They're at 16.8. So being over is very common right now. The next data point that I took, and I will take moving forward, are what we call measures of LRE, and that's the percentage of time a student spends in special education. So that number is really, if you look on your chart here, it's these percentages here. So you have a district total, and then you have all the school sites are broken up as well. And it's basically students, the number of students, and then the percentage, those who spend 80% or more of their day in special education, 50 to 79, 20 to 49, and then less than 20. So that data tells me basically how much time students are spending with their neurotypical peers or in special ed settings. That data point, in combination with these others that I'm going to speak about, are monitored by the state of California. So we very closely monitor what we call LRE, least restrictive environment, because we want students with their neurotypical peers as much as possible, their general education peers. It's a really valuable data point for me because I can look at just that piece of data and it should tell me, if I know how many special day classes are on a campus, I should know what that data looks like. If it looks different, then that tells me perhaps we have some training to do of staff on the paperwork, potentially. That's a potential outcome of reading that data point.
Is there a reason why Adams is significantly much lower than the other two districts?
Well, again, what's great about this is the first time we took this data. So what we're finding is we don't have consistent practices across the school sites. So it's a great learning opportunity for me and my special admin team, because when I look at it, exactly, there's another kind of outlier of Adams has a lot of one-to-one aides, when truly they don't have a lot in the way you'd think of it. But what they have done is they have these push-in models. So general ed classrooms can have clusters of students and 3 to 4 paraprofessionals, but they put them on as one-to-one aides to staff the room. But I would prefer not to go with that model. So in reviewing the data, we kind of learned a lot about how people are doing paperwork and some systems we want to undo. So right now it's a data shot that teaches us really, is it true? Is it accurate? Is it telling the right story? So yeah, there's a lot of learning from that. No, it's been great. The second on the slide that I want to point out, and it's the bottom data on the graph, is this is what student demographic data related to your racial identity. So that's also monitored by the state because the state monitors what we call disproportionality. And what dispro is basically, are you identifying students with disabilities in proportion to the number of students of that specific race in the district? And if you are identifying more, you could get into what is called district disproportionality, and there are corrective actions from the state related to it. If you are significantly finding students eligible in one specific category, like racial category, you could be in significant dispro, which is another measure by the state. So it's good to keep an eye on it. It's also really good in our equity work to be looking at are we maybe, there has been practices where, let's say, a lot of not native English speakers are found eligible for speech services, but they may not be truly with a speech language delay. It's just not their native language. So it can highlight an overqualifying of a certain group, can highlight a poor practice. So it's just something you really want to be aware of. And I really, above all, I want to make the site admin aware of these things because I want them to know their numbers and know how their schools are made up and then how the students eligible in their schools, what it looks like, what that picture looks like for them. I thought it was really important for them to understand.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I appreciate how you're breaking this down. Someone that doesn't know a lot about SPED. One thing that stands out to me when you describe that practice and what the state is looking at with regards to DESPRO, however you described it, my concern would be that if we're focused so much on numbers and not the students, and what happens if the disproportionate number is accurate?
Right. Well, exactly. Or it would be accurate, right?
I mean,
but then
but it's needed. It's not like we're just over assessing people or, determining a certain whatever it is.
It could be needed. And I want to clarify, we're not in disproportionality right now. We have not been found disproportionate. I just think it's important to look at as a data point because you really want to know, if we have only this much of our population who are 30, let's say Hispanic, 32.8% in the whole district are students who are Hispanic. And the Hispanic percentage is actually pretty like for like. That's what it should be. But there are some sites, it just can tell you a story. So it could tell you, are we potentially over-identifying students who are Hispanic? Are we potentially over-identifying students who are Black? Are we, it's a good question to ask yourself because some teams, we're doing this equity work, right? And I think it's really important to ask hard questions when you're doing equity work. And it is very true. There has been a lot of litigation in the world of special education where Black and brown boys particularly have been found disproportionately eligible for IEPs chronically because of behavior. And historically, honestly, there was findings of students with intellectual disabilities quite rampantly. And it was disproportionate and it was totally inappropriate. So there's really aggressive measures to monitor these things in special ed. I am saying, I'm hearing you, that there's a lot of validity with somebody being truly eligible. But the truth is, it's for certain eligibilities, like other health impairment, for instance, you could become other health impairment for ADHD, an attentional processing disorder. Right. So, but you may have no other discrepancy in your cognitive profile. So, and you may be acting out, right? So there's a slippery slope of is this really related to a disability or is this something else?
Got it.
So you just have to have a mindful hat on. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying people are doing wrong. I'm just saying people need to be mindful.
Yep, I agree. I just was saying that just making sure that we're not really just so focused on the numbers, but making sure like folks that have a need for the plan or whatnot, they get the resources and stuff that they need, and we're not really
100%.
focused like, oh, it puts us over, so we probably shouldn't. Just be making sure that we are providing for the students who need the resources.
Absolutely. And I would say I'm not shy of making students eligible in any sort of way. I just have to be mindful of them being able to be in the neurotypical setting. But to that point, am I using this mic appropriately? I feel like I'm not used to, okay. I feel like I'm like it's loud, not loud. I am going to expand that data though to really include next year. I'll do the full demographic information to include Asian group and mixed Asian because our population is really changing. Then the other related services I'm tracking are the number of students with one-to-ones and the number of students with counseling services. And that's primarily because, counseling services, we're just seeing a really huge increase in the need for mental health supports. And I just want to keep an eye on that because it may inform us about how we might need to potentially change our programming. And then in terms of one-to-ones, I really want to promote student independence. So looking at like, does this number stay consistent? Does it increase? We have a really high staff to student ratio already, but I don't think people are super confident in kind of potentially, if you're not as confident in the program, then you may see it, we just need to add another adult. So I think being able to fade our adults will promote student independence and make our programs a little bit more independent themselves, if that makes sense. So it's a very important number to watch. And then I talked about the CDE follows the demographics and the LRE percentages. Okay, this is a very involved graphic, but I'll explain it. This is the LRE continuum, so the least restrictive environment continuum. On my far right, your far right, is general education. So imagine, I should have put it on the slide, past that really light colored one is 100% general education. So the model, when you move to the left, that's less time in special ed. So an ISP program is where you might get 20% of your day. You get 60 minutes a week with a special teacher to do math, something like that. We have programs, all those programs available at every site. Then you have a little bit more time in special ed, probably like 40 to 50%, and those are called learning center classrooms. That's where you get all of your ELA and all of your math in a standalone class, but you are rostered to a gen ed class. So you have a gen ed teacher, but you leave for a learning center. And the ISP is also gen ed, but you leave for your specialized academic instruction. Once you get to the middle, the counseling enhanced, that's a standalone class. So we only have 2 of those. Oh, and the numbers for LCs, the schools, and the number of programs at the schools are in parentheses. So counseling enhanced, we have 2 at Ronna and 1 at Edna. Ratio there is 1-to-4, so 4 paras, 1 teacher, and 15 kids. And then we have mild, moderate special day classes, and the sites and the numbers, and moderate to severe. So something interesting to point out, or interesting to me, is when you have 20, we have 20 special day classes for mod severe. The ratio is 1-to-2. If those classrooms have 10 kids, and most of them do, that's 5 times, that's 100 classified staff just in the darkest blue box. So we have a lot of classified staff in special education. And just interrupt me if you have questions. This next slide is about staffing. I did it by credential. So on the far left, you have your moderate severe teachers. Middle is mild moderate credential, but your SDCs and your counseling enhanced, those are your standalone classes. And then the right is your learning centers and your ISP. I think this is typical. So the state of California does have a teacher crisis. Like, we are short of special ed teachers. What's good is we have teachers, like even long-term subs, we do have them. Why this is valuable to me is I want to keep staff. I want to retain staff. I want them to be happy and supported, and I want to see those numbers of longevity go up and have, and not potentially have long-term subs, because that's how we develop better, stronger programs. These are our related service providers. So we have 13, we have the most contractors in speech. So we have 13 SLP employees, 1.5, those are in-person employees, 1.5 in-person contractors, 7.5 contract teletherapists, and then SLPAs. SLPAs are assistants, so speech language pathologist assistants. And then we have OTs. We do not have any CODAs, occupational therapists. We have behavior supports. We have 3 board certified behavior analysts, a behaviorist. They support 2 to 3 sites, students, behavior plans, site programs. We have RBTs. These are employees, and we have contract RBTs. And that's, I spoke to Scott the other day when I talked about an RBT that was a contractor supporting a student at a site. That's one of the.
We don't use CODA.
No, we had a CODA position, but we couldn't get anybody to apply. There was no applicant. Occupational therapy assistant, certified occupational therapy assistant. Sorry, it's lots of information. I'm realizing I'm a lot of information. And then school psychs, we have 1 per elementary and 2 for the middle schools, and they assess for eligibility and provide counseling support, and often run student study teams, lots of other on-site duties. These are our instructional support, our paras. We have 268 classified, 19 open positions, and 8 of those are filled by contractors. And then we're meeting the needs of all the students' IEPs despite the open positions because we shift things around. Like I said, we're very highly staffed, so we do manage to move people and cover. We also have some 2-hour employees and 3-hour employees, and we kind of patch things together that way often. Our admin team is we have 4 program specialists. They're amazing. I just need to give a shout out, like Mark Baldwin's been here for quite some time. So has Brooke Hill. They're just amazing. And without that leadership at the sites, because they each have 2 to 3 sites, they each have 3 sites. We have new Christy Sanchez, who just came on board as a program specialist, super strong. Ellen Anderson, also new as a program specialist, super strong. Without them, I would say in the field, doing the work every day, they are so good with parents, with teachers, with kids. It's just so great. And with site admin. And then Anna and Julie in the office, who are amazing and help me so much. So our goals related to the data I shared. So how you reduce the number of students eligible is basically, if parents are really worried about their students, they're going to often refer for assessment. So we assess all the time, and oftentimes it's very iffy whether the child really is eligible. I kind of gave that story. So what we really need to do is improve the process for which families can get support before assessment, because they may not need an assessment. They may just need some behavior interventions or some kind of maybe speech language support. Maybe they're articulating very well. So we really need, if we can improve the student study team process, then we could kind of potentially stave the incredible flow towards assessment and then potentially reduce the numbers of eligibility. And to do that, the next step would be to collaborate really closely with CNI and student services. And Michael and Kirsten and I are working very closely together on that first bullet. And then the second is I really want to see students spend more time in general education. And I find the easiest way to do that is make administrators aware of what an LRE percentage is and say, I'm monitoring how often this child is in gen ed, and can we find more? It's really just teaching people to ask the question, when can they be out of this? Especially if they're in a special day class, when can they be with their peers? When can we push them out? And so to see those percentages kind of trend lower is what we'd want. And then so for next steps, I talked about collaboration, aligning the paperwork, kind of you had asked a question about why certain numbers were the way they were. It's because processes are not aligned across the sites. And then I want to collaborate with site admin on inclusion opportunities. Program development, like I said, we're seeing a really significant need for social, emotional, mental health support. So increasing the programs available and the types of supports we're providing to middle schoolers. We're also moving the preschool to Montañez. So we're using this as an opportunity to reinvent those programs and redesign those programs. To do both of these things, we're having meetings with the stakeholders. We created a Montañez transition team in November when I told the preschool team that they were moving. We created a survey. We got volunteers for the team. We met twice in December, and we're meeting again in a couple weeks to talk about design of programs. So it's been great. And then the biggest thing for the bottom bullet is providing, I've noticed that there's been more of a need for curriculum and curricular support in our special ed programs, especially the special day classes. So I've been working closely with Michael on getting more curricular support in there and materials. And then the last one is staff development, which I like to think of, how do we develop staff? Like it's more than just training, it's developing them as humans, teach kids, and it's a really hard job. And how do they work with families? So really supporting, being consistent, giving them training, like legal training and paperwork training, but giving them training on working with people, like parents, and how to communicate effectively and supportively. So my big goal is I want to retain people. I think if people stay, that's a sign that they're happy. I want to attract more qualified people and then empower people to participate in the development of stronger programs and get their buy-in. Because if it's their idea, it's usually a better idea and they are more invested in it. So that's my big plan. Sorry it took so long. Do you guys have questions for me?
I do. Sorry, guys. I have questions. Love the presentation, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
How do we compare to local districts as it relates to our severe, moderate was it the moderate, severe special day classes?
I'd have to ask them. I mean, I know we have more, but specifically, so we're bigger. Like we're the third largest district in the SELPA, and there's 15 school districts in the SELPA. So below our next biggest district in this SELPA is Pittsburgh. So I could find out from Pittsburgh. That'll give you a data point. It doesn't tell us much about Byron and Knightson because they probably have one class, and we have 20. Oakley, I can find out from Oakley, but it's smaller significantly.
Okay.
So I can get the number from Pittsburgh. That would tell you a lot.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your priority of, retaining teachers and retention. I think that's really important. Do you have a process for checking in on the pulse of employee morale in your
I meant to mention, I think I can improve that. I do in terms of, is this on still? Yeah, sorry. I do a couple things, and I have a very open door, and most people know that, but I think I'm liking what you're saying, and I think I can improve on that. I do what's called a director's download. So every month at the end of the month, I email the entire SPED team, and I give them updates on basically what happened in that month and what they need to know. And my door is open, and I say that. The other thing I do is I do a staff appreciation. So I have a nomination form, and you can nominate every month a classified employee, a certificate employee, and a related service provider. And then at the end of the month, my team decides the person, and I go to those sites and I take pictures, and they're on the website. And so there's an appreciation piece. And then I created this year job-alikes. We didn't have job-alikes before, so I created a mod severe job-alike, mild mod job-alike, OT, behaviorist. So that's my opportunity to kind of check in and see how they're doing.
Okay.
I think I could be better at that because I just had to create that as the train was going along.
What do you call that? What is it?
It's a job. It's just called the job-alike. It's people who have the same job, and it really came out of necessity. I mean, I had the behaviorist, when are we going to meet? And I was like, Tuesday? And, then I just kept and then another group was like, can we meet? And I was like, sure. And then finally I was like, I think every group needs to have a meeting, And so then I asked my colleagues, Mark is leading one of them, and yeah.
Okay.
But I think even a survey would be good.
Yeah.
Job-alike.
Job-alike, sorry.
Shirt-alike?
Yeah. You're in the shirt.
Yeah, 2 more questions.
Okay.
Does it cost for us, is there a cost to the district on assessing our students?
Yes. Well, yes, because it's a manpower situation. Absolutely. So it takes a psychologist a lot of time. So it takes the time of a psychologist to assess. They can't give service during that time. It also is very intensive for a teacher. So if those ISP teachers, like on the slide, they assess usually all new referrals as ISP teachers assess, and they may have a caseload of already 28, and then we have to pay them overtime to assess. So we do get time sheeted quite a bit for the assessment work that's happening.
Okay. And then the last question I have is, as we start thinking about kind of identifying if there's other markers or like if it's a behavior issue and not necessarily a need or whatnot, the only thing that comes to mind for me is that within the general population, what I think I keep hearing is that there's limited resources and funding, and that so if we're going to be continuing to draw on that general population like resources when we identify that there is a student that may think that they are eligible for special education resources, but they're determined not to or deemed not to be eligible. Mm-hmm. The lack of resources available to the general population, the general student population, is a bit of a concern for me if we're talking about behavior issues that are translating into things that are keeping them from being academically successful.
Yeah. So the interesting thing, I totally agree. The hard part is it's actually all comes from the same pot, because special ed is not a fully funded mandate. So special ed as it stands pulls out of the general fund. They are already encroaching. I hate to say that word and somebody can clarify more, but they already pull money from the general fund significantly. So in a way, it's like it's all the same money.
It's all the same pot coming from. I got you.
A little bit. And I always try to tell staff, it's like it's hard, we shouldn't fight each other, right? Because we're actually on the same team pulling from the same pool.
I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was all I have. Thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
Anyone else?
I think you're doing a fantastic job personally, and that was very informative, and I don't want to sound surprised, but it was, and that's a good thing. So, and I kind of judge people's jobs by the amount of compliments or complaints, and and the compliments are, there's no complaints, and that's a rarity in your field, trust me. So
Well, thank you. I super appreciate it. It was really fun to put it together. Like, I really was excited about it. I'm excited to share it with our staff and the principal students. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that you're trying to retain the teachers, the special ed teachers we have, because they could be experiencing burnout, but the more experience they have, they're better mentors for future sped ed teachers going into that career.
Yeah, 100%. And I was a teacher. I taught special education for 11 years. Like, that's where my heart is, and I know how hard it is. So I support them because I've been there, and it is a very difficult job. So I think it is a telltale of I believe a good job.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry. Thinking about the pipeline for educators that go into SPED, is there opportunity to partner with our local high school district on getting high school kids to get exposed to
Yes, we do that now. And,
Okay.
and we're expanding that, and we just met with them last week, in fact, yeah. And so there's some things in the future that we have planned. I just found out that the lead over there has every kid's phone number that went through the TLC Academy, and so we're going to blitz them with
Okay,
some
right on.
texts, yeah.
Love that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justine. Next, 10.11, 2024-2025 enrollment projections.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank the people that stayed in the audience to hear my report. I know you've been waiting all evening for that. Let me try to cast here. There we go. So, board, coming to you this evening with an enrollment projections for 24-25 school year. And as you know, there's several variables that we have to consider. The opening of Isaac R. Montanez Elementary School, decreasing the enrollment at Pioneer and Marsh Creek Elementary School, K registration, which will occur February 1st to March 14th. The intra open enrollment from January 10th to March 1st, and as this board put as a priority to Pioneer and Marsh Creek families in 5th grade, whether or not they could stay there. and apply for that. So we go through that process. We'll monitor what the enrollment numbers are as a result. And then intra open enrollment from April to May. We have those two intra windows, one January 10th, March 1st, and then the second one.
Chris, we will remind the parents of the agreement that we all made to Pioneer.
Yeah, I believe something's already gone out to those families.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent.
So what I'm about to show you is we have a magical database created by Robin Schmidt. He doesn't charge us any residual income for that, so it's good. So we put in we take those boundaries, and Maria works her magic, Maria Ambriesen Student Services, and the geocode is where a student lives. And based on that, it gives us this data, this raw data as to what our school populations will be. So keep in mind that we create the boundary for for Isaac Montanez Elementary School. We're decreasing Marsh Creek, but we're moving students from Brentwood Elementary School and Mary Casey Black to Marsh Creek, right? So there's several shifts going on. And in doing so, this is our projected numbers. Not knowing what TK really will be, not knowing what K fully will be, and then knowing that some of the fifth grade will be moving. So what I estimated was that half of the fifth graders, next year's fifth graders at Marsh Creek would stay. That's what I'm playing with right now. And we'll continue to monitor that. So the results is that we're staffing Isaac Montanez at 14 staff members. Marsh Creek will decrease by 6 teachers, essentially 1 at each grade level, and we'll monitor that TKK piece. And then Pioneer will lose 2 staff members as a result. So that's where we're at right now. And as those numbers come in, we're meeting every other week on this. And as we get closer to March, we'll meet more often and continue to adjust these numbers as a result.
Just to clarify, the 14 staff members at Montanez, does that include the ones coming from the other schools? Or?
Yes,
okay,
right. So 8 staff members would be moving to Montanez, and then the rest would be staffing either with our own teachers that wish to move there through the transfer process, or hiring from the outside.
How many
more
teachers do you project will be hiring next year?
It's a great question. Right now, roughly, I would say 8 to 10 of multiple subject. What's that?
When would we probably start that?
We'll go to our first job fair in February. We're hosting a job fair for East County in February, and then we'll begin posting in March. So, and mainly we're going to attack special ed really hard because we need to fill some positions, right? And I expect that we'll have some growth in special ed. The multiple subject, I will say this, since there's only 3 people in the room outside of that work in cabinet or whatever, that multiple subject, this is still a district that's sought after, right? And multiple subject teachers want to teach here. And so we're safe in holding out till May, June to be able to hire, right? What's tougher is those single subject positions, and then certainly special ed. The COTA that was mentioned, we posted the COTA. We had 3 people begin to fill out an application. We called them, and they were already hired before we had called them. And that was the day that they began filling out the application. So it's a different environment for special ed than it is for a multiple subject teacher.
Is that because our application process was later?
No.
Oh.
No. I mean, they were filling out the application, and we're interviewing that day at other districts, and we're offered before they walked out the door. Kind of like me with music teachers. I tackle them in the parking lot to hire them.
Thank you. Nice comparison.
Thank you. Yeah. I like your red shirt. Next steps, continue to monitor that growth. We'll add in those K registration numbers to projected enrollment data, add the intra numbers from open enrollment 1. Principals need to receive their staffing in March. They need to be able to communicate to staff where they're what grade level they'll be placed at or department they'll be placed at. And then this is subject to change based on enrollment data. And then we'll continue to expect changes in TKK in the middle school. And continue to expect changes in enrollment for Marsh Creek Pioneer and Isaac Montanez Elementary School. Roughly a ballpark, we'll be reducing Marsh Creek by about 150 students and reducing Pioneer by about 78 students. Any questions for me?
I sure.
Very detailed and concise.
So
All right. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. I have the next 5 agenda items.
Okay.
All right.
Let's put them all together. Let's do it.
All right. 10.12, approval of updated job description.
Yeah, so as you know, UMA has taken the position as the secretary too at Ike Montanez Elementary School. So it gave us an opportunity to update our receptionist job description. And so we're just updating this to be more reflective of the work that UMA currently does and what our past reception has done. And I took off typewriter. So we bring this before you and we're going to keep bringing our job descriptions forward and update them over the next 2 years.
Cool. I move that we approve item 10.12, the updated job description.
Second.
The only thing I would say is that when I look at documents that have been updated, I normally like see the red line or a summary of what's been changed. If perhaps for things like this,
Sure.
call that out.
I can give you both. Yeah.
That's
a great idea.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thank you.
No problem.
I think we're.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Objections? Okay, motion passes. Next item, 10.13, approval of health and welfare MOU with employee groups.
Okay, you have the MOU in front of you. This is a health and welfare for all employee groups. And so this is something we negotiated with our union partners and then also our collect and convey groups like administration and our confidential group. And so this is to ensure that the district continues to pay for the single payer, and then we added that 106 to each of the other groups.
I'd like to compliment you and both Diane in working with them because I'm well aware how many times it went back and forth. So good job. And it seems like they're happy. And that was a very big complaint last meeting. So thank you both for working it out.
All right, now put a motion on the floor.
What's that?
Put a motion on the floor now.
Oh, you're one to talk.
Second.
The third.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
so
Any
glad you
objections?
said
No, motion carries.
This next one is approval of cash and lieu MOU with our employee groups. Again, this is all employee groups. We brought in the consultants from Checkers, and one of the things to make our healthcare plan more healthy is to no longer have cash and lieu. So everyone that has cash and lieu is grandfathered in, but moving forward, anyone that we hire, we will not be offering cash and lieu. It puts us at a disadvantage when we have cash and lieu when we go out to bid with healthcare providers.
Well, I remember when we started it, one of the reasons that it was started, it was because if people would say, well, my spouse has this coverage, why don't we just get the other coverage and then we'll have double coverage because it doesn't cost us any more as a family. And so we end up, the district ends up spending more money than they would in cash.
Potentially that could still be true. The problem right now is that we have decreasing staff members taking our healthcare. And so it's actually less than 50% now that take healthcare. And so as a result, our pool is getting smaller and smaller, and it makes it really, really difficult to get that buying option. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And a person can still come into this district, take single and take family with their spouse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are you done?
Move that we approve item 10.14, the cash and lieu MOU with employee groups.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Okay, motion carries. 10.15, approval of instructional aid MOU.
Yeah, this is an MOU with our CLC group, and it creates an instructional aid lead. I apologize to you that I should have brought this to you months ago. And so this is an instructional aid lead at each site. And so they want it being a liaison between the principal and they attend certificated staff meetings and then share that information out. They also support new aides coming into the district. Found it to be really, really valuable.
If there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve item number 10.16, approval of,
15. Yeah, you're right.
wait, which one are we on?
1.5.
1.5.
You got it.
Yeah. 1.5 and 15 are the same. Carry on.
Oh, my bad. So yeah, 10.15, approval of instructional aid MOU.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Motion carries.
I've never been so popular. 10.16, approval of revised declaration of need for fully qualified educators. This speaks to what Justine was speaking to earlier, and that we need to have fully qualified teachers, especially in special ed. This is something that we send off to the CDE and to let them know that there's a possibility we will not be hiring teachers that have full credentials.
Thank
and
you.
that has to do with the credential shortage, the teacher shortage.
I have no,
Move that we approve item 10.16, approval of revised declaration of need for qualified teachers.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Objections? Motion carries. 10.17, first reading of board policy, board bylaw, administrative regulation exhibit.
This is for information only, and you'll be seeing lots of these because of the 127 new laws that were passed by the legislature this past year. But we'll bring these in. These will come as an action item on your next agenda, unless there's any questions.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No.
All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
11.
That's
11, board member comment, future agenda items.
No, thank you. A little punchy here.
I am.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, next regular board meeting will be held February 21st, 2024 at 6 PM.
We'll miss you, Scott.
Give me backup posters.
Yeah.